SharePoint and why that ID column is there. So basically the purpose of the ID column is in short, in SQL table we know the primary key column or unique key column. Okay, so this is the internal column which whenever you create a list, it will automatically, this column will automatically get created, and it maintain the unique ID for this item whichever you add in a SharePoint list. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'll explain more on it. You cannot, means whenever you go in any list and list setting, you find this ID column is already exist there. So here you can see, here you will not able to find here ID column here, but that column is there. You can see here the column names are there. You can see the in this setting there are columns are there, but ID column is not there. ID column is not there. You know the purpose of modified and created by column, modified by and created by. These are also the default column automatically created when in a list. But whenever you go and change the view setting, at that time we find the ID column is there. See, if I say edit current view, we found that ID column here. Okay, I have taken the first position, so this ID column is there. Okay, so generally what happen, why we use this ID column, the ID column will maintain the unique identity of this row. This ID column will maintain the unique identity of this list atom or this row or entry. Okay, so what happened, means how it work. So in ID column what happen, if it will auto increment by 1. If we add any new item, here is up to 6 IDs are there. If I add next one, consider there is an employee name, something employee name, I just put the mandatory fields so that I just explain quickly. Here employee ID is something, means I have created that field, so I just put one entry. Here you can see 7 will automatically added in ID column. It will auto increment, it will keep increasing automatically. Now what I will do, I will delete this item. Okay, I delete this item. So what happened, so up to 7 I have created item and I have deleted that item. Now what I am doing, see, so again I will add new item, again I'm adding new item, I fill the required fields. Okay, and I save this. Okay, you can see the ID will be 8 created. You know that means we have columns up to 7, then I have deleted few rows up to 7, list item up to 7 ID, but I had deleted, but still the ID is incremented from 8. Still ID is incrementing from 8, means even though if I delete this 2, once you delete that item, that ID will not get assigned to any list item. So that unique ID once assigned, it will never get changed. It get assigned to that next number. Okay, you cannot modify it, you cannot change it. It keep increasing. Even you delete the old IDs, it will not assign the old vacant or old IDs to new list item. It will never it will not happen. So it keep increasing the ID, it keep increasing the number, it keep increasing the sequence. Okay, so consider generally the purpose of ID. So this is the, so SharePoint internally use this ID for tracking purpose. Okay, internally use this ID for tracking purpose. See how it will use. If I say filter here, okay, if I say filter here, filter by employee ID, I just show you just a minute. Here you can see filter parameter how it is 102. This is filter by 102. Now here it filter this item based on this employee ID. Again I will go and say empty this, clear, apply. If I say filter by 8, you can see ID value here, base filter based on ID and value is 1, but the internally the ID is used for different purposes. Okay, let me show you more purpose of ID. So I clear this. Okay, sorry, I need to say clear, apply. Okay, now here let me show you one important thing in that. If I say property copy link. So see what I'm doing, I'm just saying copy link here. Let me show you. Let me open it in Notepad. So here you can see ID. No, it's not. It encrypted now. But what happened whenever we create any item, edit any item, it will in this copy link or in link you can find that ID here. Okay, that particular ID. If you are in a classic site, then you will find that ID. But in modern site, it's not visible. But ID is used to track this list item internally. Okay, also you can use this ID for different purposes, like consider if I create I hope it work or not, but I just try to show you. If I create any item, say create any column and name the column is, and in that column I'm going to use the ID, say employee ID. Okay, in this you can say that calculated column, and here consider my company name is Caesar, so I say Caesar hyphen, and here ID is there. ID, let me use ID here. Okay, so I say okay, let me check. So whether we can use the formula refers column that does not exist, check the formula. Okay, so we cannot use the ID here. Okay, no problem. So if in any request or any place you want to, you can use that ID column. Okay, so here let me show you. I have created employee column with a employee ID. I have created a column with a name employee ID, and see where is that column. Let me show you. Let me take it a second position so that it will help you. Employee ID, sorry, I have not created column, I think. Just a minute. Single line column I will create employee ID. Okay, so I have created the column employee ID here. Okay, so here I'll go in my automate flow, my flows, and that flow will run on here leave tracker. So we'll go here, and what I do, I will automatically generate the employee ID here. I will automatically generate employee ID. How I can use the internal ID column here. So what I do, leave approve action condition here, and here what I do, whenever atom is created, immediately what I want to update means this flow. When this flow will run when atom is created, means once the atom will get added, means this value ID value will get assigned to it. Okay, and then based on that I'm going to generate my employee ID. So employee ID will get automatic, unique employee ID will get automatically created here. So I just uh, remove our previous employee ID and give this priority to this new employee ID. I have created one. Okay, so just a moment. One more thing change I will do here. This setting, earlier employee ID I have made it as a required field. I will remove or I will delete earlier employee ID, or I will make it not required. Okay, so see here, employee ID column is there. Let me show you the new employee ID column we have added here. Okay, so now what I will do, I'll go here and I'll say create, means new item created. After that what I'm doing, I will add one action here, update. You know the update action, update. So update item here, or how we can get the action. If you don't know the action, what you need to do, you go here, just a click here, add action, let's say SharePoint. It will bring all the action related to the SharePoint. Okay, so here all the actions related. So get item, move file, add attachment. There are many actions associated with the SharePoint, but our main intention is update item. So I'll just select my site, I'll go and copy my site URL from here. We trying to understand how we can utilize our ID column. Okay, so I just put here value site URL, and then select the column employee leave, and here see, now here ID column is there and here ID is there. See, you can see ID means same ID column, so here I attach as it is. If you set another value, it will not work. Okay, note that. So here I say test, and here I am doing, see, I say Caesar hyphen, and now here I'm using my ID here. You can see Caesar hyphen ID. So that's it. So what I did, I created new column, and what I'm doing, I'm using the internal ID column here to generate my ID here. Okay, so here you can see ID. Why ID is taking here? This ID is taking here also because the system needs to identify, because we are doing the update operation. To do the update operation, I need to find out the particular list entry on which I want to perform the update operation. See, again, here what I'm saying, create item. Item create means item is already created. Now the next task is we need to update. When this flow is trigger item creation, means once item is created, entry is registered in SharePoint. Okay, but now I want to amend that, I want to update that entry. Okay, so how I can, in my list there are 1000 entries, but I want to take particular entry. So for that purpose also, what I do, I refer the ID column. ID column is an internal column. So here again I use the same ID column to generate my employee ID. My company name is Caesar, and I say hyphen ID. So this thing we have used, and I say save my flow, and I test that how it will execute and how it work. Okay, so I save this. Okay, save this. Okay, again I close and say new, say employee name Raju. Okay, so this is the required field. I save this and I enter that required field employee name only, and this employee ID I am actually, see, entry is created but employee ID still not created. What it mean? That still my flow is in execution state. So let's go here and check that the status of our flow. I go back. You know that where to check the flow history. So it's saying that running. It's saying that running means my flow is in execution, means it takes second time. So again I go. It means I just refresh it. We understand that. See, you can see my Caesar 9 is automatically created, means I use this ID to generate my employee ID, or means you can use this ID to generate different unique IDs. So you understand the purpose of ID. Using the ID I can create my employee ID. Using the ID, system will identify that particular entry. So that is the main purpose, and this is the primary key, unique key for that particular list. We stop here.